Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it be for you. My name's Hunter Babbitt, and this is my HSET 403 Testing Systems project. So, my project, I chose to use a Case Magnum 7140, pretty popular tractor for Case back in the late 80s to early 90s there. This was the first tractor actually Case and International built together. As you can see, there's a 2294 Case on in the right hand picture over here, and that is actually what the first tractors for Case and International looked like. The red version was just the Case International version, same whole tractor and everything, just red. But this was the first tractor that they had no white on them, and it was just the Case International tractor. Had the Cummins engine that wasn't really a Cummins. They called it a J.I. Case Tenneco engine, but it was a 8.3 liter Cummins that pushed out 197 horse. And for the first half of the series, 7140 was the top of the line. It was the cream of the crop. But in 1990, Case decided to add the 7150 to the lineup to break through that 200 horsepower mark for them. These tractors had a 18 or 24 speed power shift in them, and they opted for the standard 18 speed, but the 24 speed had a 6 speed creeper, which worked good for being able to feed cattle with whatever it be, just going slowly through the barns and everything. These tractors were produced over in Racine, Wisconsin, in their plant that's still there today and still produces the Magnum line. They were $91,000, brand new in 1993. So, for say of my experiments here, I'm going to be using a 7140 off a dairy farm that has 21,571 hours on it, quite a few. She's been used quite a bit, used and abused quite a bit. So the complaint for the tractor is that it is having a vibration, a grinding, and a rattling coming from underneath the cab there, underneath the floor pan at the feet of the tractor through the transmission somewhere. The customer isn't really sure where it's coming from, but this tractor just came in and got rebuilt trans in it, speed and range transmission put into it by the certified Case dealer, the local Case dealer. And it did not come in for vibration, grinding, or rattling. It came in for slipping clutch packs, and the dealership went through and replaced all the seals, all the gaskets, and any bad bearings in it, and went back to the customer and started using it for a couple hours and noticed this vibration that had occurred in the transmission of the tractor, and it only occurs when it is in gear. The tractor still goes through all the gears and everything, still goes fine. So it came back to the dealership. They tested all the pressures, went through that, couldn't find anything wrong with the tractor per se from the outside. Tested trans pressures and everything. Everything was in spec. Everything was adjusted correctly because this is a mechanical transmission. All the linkages to the control valves that adjust the cam inside the valve were all good. All pressures were up to snuff. And so they tore it all back down, stripped it all back down, went back through the whole transmission, measured everything once again. Couldn't find anything wrong with the transmission, either transmission, the range, or the speed. And so they put it back together. Again, didn't really have a vibration right off the get-go. But then went back to the customer again, a couple hours after use, came back with the same complaints: the vibration, the grinding, the rattling, and the lower and below the cab in the transmission area. Unsure of where at in the area. Just know that it's grinding and vibrating. So, what I want to do, I want to come in as a OEM representative, service representative from, we'll say I'm from CNH here in modern day, and that I want to be able to locate that vibration and where that sound is coming from. So I'm going to use a vibration analyzer and a sound level meter to be able to put on that transmission and locate that problem, whether it be on the top, bottom, side, whatever, and then with that information, use that information to help me locate the problem itself, whether it's internally, externally on the transmission, whatever it may be. So, materials I'm going to need. First off, for an analyzer, I found a really good app that I like to use. It is called the Vibration Meter app from smarttools.co. For that, you just need an iPhone. It's on the Google Play Store. It's had, or a phone, not necessarily iPhone, whatever you want to use. It's on the Google Play Store. It has over 1 million downloads. There's mechanics on there that say they've used it and have found vibrations with it. So I went with it. It's got a 4.7 rating on the Google Store. So with that, to be able to mount that, we're not just going to duct tape it on there because we want to be somewhat professional here since we are working for a big corporation. So we're going to use a magnetic mount for the phone to be able to mount that phone onto the transmission and to be able to run that transmission. So this is just the one in the image here is just one that is right off of Amazon. And then also we're going to need that sound meter. This one's actually from Western Michigan University. That tripod and sound system is right from Western Michigan University. You can actually get it from them. That's what they use in all their labs down there. So that's what we're going to need for materials. And obviously, we're going to need time. We're going to need a laptop to be able to put data into, or notepad, however you prefer. Personally, I'm going to be able to use an Excel spreadsheet. And then from there, I'm going to be able to graph anything that I need to find a location of the problem. So, moving on here, budget. For a sound level meter, you can find them for $10,000. You can find them for $25. All depends how much you want to spend. I found some pretty decent ones from looked like some reliable brands. I was able to find for $350. Had a lot of great reviews and everything. None in particular. There's just a large generic amount that are at that $350 amount. Excuse me. And then for a phone magnet, you can find one off Amazon for like $25, $20, whatever it be. And also for that tripod, this one's actually a tripod from Western. They're $125. A little pricey. I'm sure if you shopped around, you could find a little bit cheaper one, a little bit better deal. So then also for time, in my mind, I should not spend more than 2 days doing this job. Honestly, it should probably be a 1-day job, but just for that factor, that extra time, I'm giving myself a 16 hours for a day. That doesn't include the drive time to the site. I'm including that in the $125 per hour. I don't know what the OEM representatives like a CNH charges to go down to a dealership. I'm sure it's not cheap. I just kind of went off that to include if I got to stay at a hotel, how far away this is, my drive time, my gas, and all that. So I just came up with 125. Sounded like a good number to make to be able to rough this in. So then at 16 hours, that's $2,000. So a total of $2,500 for me to show up with all the gear and everything, because the app is free. I have a phone already, so most of that's already there. I already have a laptop, pen, paper, all that stuff, So that's where I got $2,500 from. So timeline, what are we looking for? I mean, this is the third time this transmission or this tractor has been in the shop for a transmission. So I mean, the customer is definitely not going to be happy, and I mean, we are going to be on a crunch for this. So I mean, honestly, we just want it ASAP. Get it out as quick as we can and just be able to get it back to the customer in a working condition that is up to OEM specification. So, what is my procedure that I'm going to do here? Well, my first thing is I want the customer. I want to talk to the customer. I want to hear his side of the story, just so I'm not hearing the dealer side, even though I am on the dealer side, I suppose, in this case, working for the corporate company. I want to talk to the customer, figure out what he was doing when this happened, if it's anything abusive. I mean, obviously, they're not really going to tell you that, but just try to get as much information out of them as you can. Then I want to talk to the service manager and be able to pull the records of the customer, the whole record of this, the time, the money, the parts, all that that's spent, all what got put into it. And then I want to talk to the technician that performed the operation or technicians, and figure out how it went. If they ran into problems, if they had problems, if they noticed anything that was kind of borderline questionable or low on spec, that was just barely in range. I want to do all that and confront everybody. Then I want to look the machine over myself. I want to check fluids. I want to go through and do all the basics, all the simple things first, because if you don't do the simple things, they will come back to bite you every time. No doubt about it. So, going through, doing all the simple things, taking care of all that, checking the fluids, looking for any external leaks, whatever it may be. Then I want to operate the tractor and confirm the problem and make sure it's nothing that I have noticed before, whatever, being throughout the Magnum series on different tractors, be whatever it could be, using my experience on that. Next, I'm going to go through the app. I'm going to set the app up, the vibration meter, and everything. I'm going to set that up with the magnet, and I'm going to place that on the transmission and go through that. We're going to get into setting baselines here in a little bit, but I'm going to go through and take some readings and figure out where I'm at on the transmission and figure out what my numbers. Then I'm going to go through and do the same thing with the sound meter and go through and check all the sounds and figure out if I can locate where the most vibration and noise is coming from on the transmission itself. Once I have a good set of baseline numbers and a good set of actual numbers running the transmission and everything running the tractor, then I want to look at those numbers, understand those numbers, but again, you don't want to get too much data that there's useless data. You want to be as efficient as you can be. So you're going through, you are trying to sort through the data and figure out and find where the most vibration is coming from, where the most sound is coming from, and figure that out. And once we've located that, we're going to look if it's an external and internal problem possibly, and figure that out. So standards. What are we looking for as a standard on this vehicle? Well, being that we don't have baselines from manuals or from Case IH themselves, CNH, we want to be able to make our own. So since we were able to identify the problem is not in the park position of the transmission, we want to be able to, and the neutral position, we want to be able to get numbers of vibration and sound while we are in those park and neutral positions. So I want to be able to test on left side, right side, bottom, top of both speed and range transmissions. And then once I get those numbers, I have that baseline number to go back to once we start running through the gears. And once we start running through the gears, maybe get a little bit idea if it's on the left side, right side. You can kind of get this generally by just really listening to the tractor, but in this case, the tractor needs to be moving, so it's hard to listen to the tractor. There's a lot of external noise going on and everything. So, with that vibrational analysis, we can actually locate that a little bit better. And same with that sound, it'll pick up that little bit more sound coming from that transmission. So that's why we're doing this. So that's where I'm setting my standards at for this to be able to use this data as useful information. So for results, what did we find? Well, this image on your left is the Park Paul plate, and we had a severe vibration and noise coming right from this area directly on the transmission. And what it turned out to be is what we were able to find is the cable was actually stretched on the Park Paul, which was allowing the spring to apply tension, which the spring is used to apply tension to the gear itself. So this cable is actually pulling back on that spring tension. So after 21,000 hours of this tractor, this cable is stretched enough where it's just allowing, it's not quite overcoming the full, be able to pull that paw all the way back enough. So it is just making a little bit of contact with the rear, the park gear itself, which is allowing it to chatter a little bit with moving back and forth and vibrating on that spring, which is causing the vibration in the transmission, which is also causing the chattering and the rattling that sounds like it's coming from the transmission. So, what are we going to do about the customer? Well, we're going to contact the customer, tell them what we found, what we have discovered on the transmission, and what our options are. Talk to him what he wants to do about the options. We can either, one, adjust the cable, which is kind of a last resort, as I would like to put it, because this tractor does have 21,000 hours on it, and a new cable is only going to be $100 at most, and we can either get it next day freighted to us or what, and have a new cable put in to be able to pull that park pawl all the way back. Now, for the outcome here, as you can see, this is a little bit, a few better pictures here. We have the park pawl on the top left there, and then we have the park gear in the center top there, and then there's that cable right there at the bottom. But on this park pawl, as you can see, this is from the inside view. You can see where that spring is right on the side. You can just barely make it out behind the park pawl there. And that is what was starting to apply, and those teeth on the park pawl are starting to catch. So for an outcome, we use the vibration analysis and the sound meters, them both in conjunction. Honestly, we probably could have just used a vibration analysis, but we also use the sound analysis just as a backup if we were chasing two problems at the time. But we just had the one issue, and we were able to solve this. And for the outcome, if the customer wanted to go through, change the cable out, we would go through, change the cable out, adjust it, and then confirm everything is correct and all is dandy. So this was my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all enjoy your winter break. Thanks for watching this, and I'll talk to you later.